fire, air. I do a terrible job at doing the intro for Avatar the Last Airbender. But for those of you who have watched the show, they actually cover real spiritual concepts. And one of them is actually the path of initiation. We come to this physical plane to master the 4 elements. Now, why do we do that? As you master these 4 elements, what you're basically doing is you're expanding and integrating different levels of consciousness. And no, this isn't literal fire, earth, air, water. It's emotions. It's the mind. It's the body. It's your spiritual gifts and your intuition. You are learning to master these within the physical plane. Spiritual initiations have always been a part of ancient societies. They were very prevalent in Egypt. But for us, they're no longer external. These initiations happen now on an internal level, but we're being made aware of them so we can understand why we're going through some of the lessons and some of the obstacles we're incurring in our lives. Earth is a school for higher learning. We come to this physical plane to learn how to integrate these higher values and these higher perceptions, essentially, in a very dense, energetic plane, okay? Now, these initiations occur over multiple lifetimes, but that is changing. It is speeding up. You can now go through multiple initiations within one life, all right? And so with each integration, with each expansion of consciousness, and remember, consciousness is awareness, okay? You're more aware of the self, you're more aware of the nature of reality, okay? And so as you go through these expansions of consciousness, as you begin to integrate these different elements within your life, right? Your ego is no longer in control. Your soul, your higher self, begins to exert more control over your physical vehicle, all right? So, these initiations can go out of order, right? They can all be taking place all at once. But for most people, they do tend to go in a linear fashion. So the first spiritual initiation that we tend to go is mastering the physical body, which is related to earth, okay? This is about learning to love, nurture, and embrace the physical body. It is learning to manage our physical desires. It is learning to manage gluttony. It's learning to not go to drugs. It's learning to not misuse sex, right? It's about being in control of our physical desires, essentially, all right? Now, lessons within this first spiritual initiation could be rooted in mastering a physical art, such as martial arts or sports, or it could be overcoming a chronic health illness, right? Basically, it is about coming in tune and coming in touch with the physical body and not allowing the physical body to control you, rather you're controlling the body itself, okay? Lessons will essentially also in this stage deal with things associated with the root chakra. So, how do you handle money? How do you handle finances? How do you handle when you're given abundance, right? Do you give it back to others or do you hoard it for yourselves? This lesson is really rooted in how you manage your life within the physical plane. It's all lessons attributed to material living. Our second initiation is out of water, which is our emotional body, okay? To pass this initiation, you have to have high control over your emotional body, all right? And our emotional body is essentially our energetic body where we house all of our emotional experiences, all right? Within this lesson, you need to learn conditional love, okay? Whether you realize or not, many of us haven't even mastered the concept of conditional love, of actually loving your partner, all right? We also have to heal from codependency. You're also heavily involved in inner child work, okay? You're not letting your traumas from many lifetimes, right, drive your decisions. You're going back and you're healing these aspects. The second initiation is essentially your journey into the unconscious mind. We covered this in the video about shadow work, but this is what this initiation is all about. It's about witnessing, observing the thoughts, going into your unconscious, not denying what's within the unconscious mind. Our lessons that we need to be gained here are greater sensitivity, how to be emotionally honest, and how to open up and be vulnerable. The second initiation is much more rooted in feminine lessons. It's much more rooted in things associated with your sacral energy point. All right? Also, in this phase, we start to become open to energy. If you are empathic or experiencing things with learning how to be empathic, meaning open to energies, feeling the energies of other people, You're probably rooted in the lessons coming from the second initiation, coming from the water element, all right? Around this point is when you start to understand that the needs of the collective matter more than the needs of the self, okay? You're going to start prioritizing the needs of others over the needs of yourself, but in a way where you're still respecting yourself and you're still respecting personal boundaries. Our third initiation is of the mind. It's a fire. It's often called trial by fire, right? And this is when we have a high degree of control over our mental body. This is when our thoughts are no longer dictating and controlling us, but we are in conscious control and we have conscious intention of how we think, right? This is a very academic initiation. This involves a lot of reading. The soul begins to use the mind as a means through which to learn and acquire more new knowledge, right? So there's many lessons here also focused on willpower, determination, being driven, action, all right? At the same time, this is where we would begin to develop a lot of analytical, logical reasoning skills, okay? So we're not swayed by the emotional body too much. It's about balancing the emotional body with being able to reason our way through our environment and through arguments. Basically, you're using the intellect at this point to bring about a positive change to society. The pitfall within this initiation is allowing the ego to gain control of the intellect, to think that the intellect is above everything else, right? This initiation needs you to step back and allow you to integrate the mind-body so that you can use your intellectual abilities to bring about a higher level of consciousness within society. Albert Einstein is a great example who lived a lifetime that was really targeted and geared towards going through the third initiation process. Our fourth initiation, which is the most difficult one, is that of the heart. And that of the element of air. Now, like I said, you can go through all these initiations. We're all going to be experiencing these initiations to some extent throughout our lifetime. But for some of us, we can have a lifetime that's more so driven through really cementing one initiation process. People who come to a life that is about really working through the fourth initiation, they have a life that is of great sacrifice and suffering. This is often referred to as the crucifixion, the great renunciation, okay? Within this phase, within working towards this initiation, you're no longer working from the intellectual mind. You're no longer making decisions that are guided by the lower self, that are guided by the body, the mind, the emotions of ourselves, right? We are making decisions that are guided by a higher source. When everyone else is telling us to go left, we are going right. We don't know why. We're just in tune that something else higher than us is guiding us. And we don't question it. We have faith. The fourth initiation is often referred to as the great dark night of the soul, the true ego death. It is within this initiation, within this phase, we have to renounce everything. Friends, family, finances, status, our reputation. You give it all. You surrender it all. Because this initiation is about unconditional love. It's about forgiveness. It's about surrendering. And only when we let go of all our ego attachments do we actually learn what unconditional love is. In this phase, we learn to live through our hearts. We learn that there is something bigger than ourselves guiding us, and we're willing to sacrifice everything to follow this path. This is the most difficult one. But when you integrate all these areas of consciousness, when you integrate all these expansions of consciousness, all these four elements, you pass all these initiative tests, this is when you're no longer human. This is when the divine starts to come through and utilize your vehicle. So, for everyone who sees a homeless man on the street and mocking him and thinking that he somehow did something to get there, that's all his fault, realize that could be someone going through the fourth initiation process. That could be a very wise old soul. And this is why this is so important. Before you pass judgment on someone, going through an emotional breakdown, recognize that these paths of initiations are real. And we're all learning and experiencing life and experiencing our lessons on different timelines. So that's it for today's video about the spiritual path of initiation. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I look forward to you all commenting below.